over comments on late journalist Bagada Khatun. Senate warns that crude oil theft may crash Nigeria's economy. And later on the show, Governor Wike accuses Ayu and Atiku of insincerity and manipulation of presidential primaries, dares the PDP to suspend him. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Lanre Arugundade, while Moji Jamiu will join us via Zoom. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us for Journalist Hangout on Sunday. Let's begin with charity, which they say begins at home. Teaching children responsible behavior is one of the most important duties of the family, yet it remains a big challenge for most parents. Sultan of Sokoto, Mohammed Sahad Abubakar III, said that parenting is responsible for activities of bandits and terrorists in Nigeria. Speaking at the function in Abuja, the Sultan said parents should start mentorship and monitoring of their home, because if there is peace at home, there will be peace in the society. Judy, we've always said it at on this program that, look, when the parents don't look after their children, these children will graduate to become something else in the society. As we have the menace of area boys in the south, we also have bandits, and we also have Yahoo boys, irresponsible people that would not make the society be proud in any form. It's as a result of bad parenting.
Yes, and that is the point that the Sultan is making. There's a lot of parental negligence. This time around, I could say that when we were younger, parents took better care of their children. Today, even children are left by their parents to the elements. They are forced to fend for themselves, fend for the family. And the truth is, parental negligence is an enabler of all kinds of criminal activities. When the Yorubas will say, your son is not a dry cleaner or a washerman, but he keeps bringing clothes home. You've got to ask him, where did you get these clothes? But parents don't ask such questions anymore. Young women, some as young as 14, 15, they take to prostitution. Parents don't ask where they get money. Some of them even proudly flaunt the fact that their wards are Yahoo boys, who are making money. So, and these boys will sometimes even buy houses for their parents. The parents will shut their lips. Everything starts from the home. If you find an irresponsible boy, a boy who loves crime, you've got to investigate the nature of the mother. A mother who is no nonsense in nature, who will walk into her children's room to find out what they are doing, will most likely produce children of impeccable character. But as the Sultan said, the banditry that is rampant in the north is traceable to parental upbringing. A lot of these guys lack home training. And because they were not properly trained at home, they become a menace to the society at large. So people have got to train their children. They've got to bring up their children the right way. Your first teacher is your mother. That's your first teacher before you even go to school. And that, the role of the mother is a role that is indispensable. So we need women, we need parents generally to do much better in terms of bringing up their children.
As Judy said, you don't belong to the, I don't want to call the, what they call them, that generation, Sha. But the bottom line is that.
What do they call them?
That, you know, and when you see the kind of attitude our children, you know, the kind of behavior, and you begin to look at what's parenting, what your parent did, and what your upbringing was like. And you now discover where the disconnects, where we have such a very, very terrible society.
Well, I think we generally have a collapse of values across different levels of society. And because family value is very, very important, the collapse of value in that area has had a telling effect on the society. And we cannot deny the fact that we have great challenges, you know, of parenting, you know, across board. However, if you look, you know, at our period, you know, you say you don't want to mention that generation. We also had bad children then. But I think what made the difference was that it was like exception to the general rule. And in any case, there were very, very few elements that you could point to in your local community, your village or your hamlet or your town and say, you know, these are miscreants. And even when you have such elements, people are likely to say that, you know, from the house you come from, we don't expect this kind of behavior from you. Which also meant that in the past too, parenting was also a collective responsibility. And so discipline was exercised not just by your immediate parents. In fact,
community,
the other fathers and mothers in the community, you know, were your parents too. And the kind of thing that they would do, I used to give, you know, this example, you know, growing up, because we were adventurous as young people. My own parents were not into farming. It was a produce buyer. But my neighbors, you know, our immediate neighbors, the children were all, they go to farm, they catch rats and so on. So there was a time I, you know, looked, you know, for money. I came from a, you know, maybe an average family then, and gave one of them to help me buy trap to catch, you know, rats in the farm. And they did. When their dad, you know, saw the rat with the trap, he asked the children, he said, "Where did you get this?" The first question he asked them is, "Who gave you money to buy trap?" We're talking of, I don't know how to put it in today's terms now, because we're not even talking of 1 naira. We're not talking of 50 kobo. We're talking of what we used to call toro in those days. You know, very. But that was the level. And I, you know, maybe some of my childhood friends watching this will know that was. I think it was Mr. Joe. Was a junior brother to our headmaster. So the children said, "Oh, it was Lanny that gave us money to help him. They bought a trap and catch a rat." And then the man sent for me, and I came and he said, "Were you the one that gave my children money, whatever?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Where did you get the money?" Before I could even explain, he had brought out, you know, stick and started flogging me, asked me to carry the trap and followed me to my dad's house. If I immediately saw my dad, he didn't even wait for my dad. He said, Akin, you don't even give your child meat again. He has got money to go and be looking for rat and whatever. It was double punishment. Sometimes they were a bit excessive, but I think, you know, it prepared us. However, looking at modern day too, I feel that, yes, we need to demand more attention. But I also feel we have a lot of things pulling, you know, parents, you know, apart. Who are even these parents? Some parents are even not supposed to be parents. We have many children now who are products of a lot of, you know, broken homes. Some are products of, you know, rape and so on. So there's a lot of disconnect. Then they struggled for survival. Our parents too struggled for survival. So we shouldn't say that that is an excuse. But I also feel that, you know, we can't overrun that, where children that are barely able to walk are already put somewhere because both the father and the mother had to go to school. So some of these children don't even know, you know, their parents. So when we're talking of, you know, bad parenting, yes, it's true. We need to demand more, but I think we also need to look at it in the context of, you know, the collapse of values, you know, in the society. And but we have to find a way out, because there's no doubt the first teacher of any child should be, you know, the parents, and we all parents need to, you know, do better.
Moji Jamiu, this Sultan of Sokoto is like saying that no, bad parenting is responsible for the situation up north.
Yeah, good afternoon, Ayo. Good afternoon, our viewers. Happy birthday to you once again. I greeted you earlier in the day. I wish you many more years in good life and good health.
Thank you, MJ.
Good afternoon, the maestro himself and our Egbon and editor par excellence, Egbon Lanre Arogundade. Yeah, having said that, lack of good parenting, it's a serious cause of concern. And to those of us who are parents, it calls to question our ability to actually put our kids in check. And like Jide said in his intro, take for example, in the northern parts of the country, where most of our young chaps are into cattle rearing. I'm not saying it is a bad trade, but some of these kids, as early as 8-9 years, the only thing they know is cattle, and they go from one bush to the other. So that parental love and care is not there. And if you know the number of out-of-school children that have to fend for themselves, so where parents abdicate their responsibilities of fending and showing love to their children, by the time those children grow up, it is difficult for such kids to listen to their parents, because they will say, come, what impact have you had in my life? So that's why we are continually having these sort of issues. And to take, for example, those kids who grow up at the motor parks, that's the only people they know as their father or their mentor are the drivers. I'm not saying that being a motor park guy or being a conductor is a bad thing, but then if these people retire home, but then from an early age, they have had to sleep inside their vehicles, that's where they know as shelter. So it is becoming increasingly difficult for such people to listen to any other person. So, and in those days, when we have issues at the home front, or if our kids have issues, they will call the parents to talk to them. They'll call elders and they sit in a village circle and resolve these issues. But look at Toji, for example, that bandit issuing threats to government that because they are bombing his enclaves now, that he's going to retaliate. Toji is less than 30 years old. Nobody can talk to him. So those are the critical issues we need to resolve. And I'm happy that this is coming from the Sultan. It is a serious problem. And that's why it's difficult to tackle some of these menaces that we have.
All right. In the past few decades, Nigeria has witnessed gruesome murders that are yet to be solved. The murder of Delegiwa, Alfred Ruwani, Bolaige, Harry Marshall, and Bagauda Kauto are few examples. That of Kauto, who was a correspondent with a news magazine, resurfaced a few days ago when a medical doctor, Mahdi Shehu, claimed that a pestle bomb from an American led to his death at Doba Hotel in Kaduna. Mahdi has come under fire for making the statements, with many calling him a pathological liar. His dramatic antics during a trial over cybercrime and defamation in 2021 comes to mind. Let's remind you of what's that drama when the issue discussed on this program on the 23rd of March 2021. Many Nigerians are learning fast from the politicians the act of using theatrics to evade trial. Katsina-born whistleblower Mahdi Shehu appeared in court in crutches over false allegations against Governor Aminu Bello Masari. He was later caught on camera, police custody, walking around. Let's share some of the videos with you.
Baba, I beg small. Come like this. Come. So let me cooperate. Small. Yeah. Sorry. Put his back. So I'm good. Should I carry on? So you can sit. If you don't stand, you cannot sit. You get? Right? Okay. Move the chair here. Sorry, don't touch her at the back. Oh, yeah.
Under the police custody, I was stung by a snake. Under the police custody, I have lost my weight, my waist. I have lost my neck. I have lost my legs. The intention is to kill me.
them of stealing so much money. Now, when it comes to defending
prove the evidence.
your allegations, it becomes a problem for you. Can see him
Is the
leading prayers now, you know. So he claimed that the kind of money that he claimed that the government had stolen through the security vote, that state had never received that kind of money. When the secretary of government of the state,
that's like Dr. Ino.
took him before the Sharia court, he stayed away. You can accuse people, but when it comes to
come and prove,
we have to go and prove,
substantiate your allegation.
You run away. He was given a bail. He jumped bail, and then the IG ordered his arrest. So he was then arrested and taken before a judge in Kano.
Okay.
It was in police custody. It was in police custody that these shots were taken. You know, and he never, even in his widest dream, he never thought that. He thought that as far as he was concerned, there was this wall around him that will ensure that no one, the outside world, cannot see what he's doing. As we have seen now, the secret camera recorded.
Was there a glass demarcating?
Yes,
because the person was actually following him with the shots.
Yes,
you know
that glass.
It's not CCTV.
No, not CCTV. You know,
the person was recording him moving.
The person was stealing the shot.
Okay.
He didn't know that by that glass that they could record from outside. So they were able to now record, show the world how dishonest he is. Because if you want the world to trust you,
as a whistleblower,
believe that you are a whistleblower,
you yourself must be clean.
Then
if you want to
you must not demonstrate conduct that suggests to them that you are not trustworthy. You know, and if you accuse people of all kinds of crimes, then you should be able to defend these allegations. If you defame a person, you must be ready to defend yourself in court. And that's why the SGS, Dr. Mustafa Inua, took him before the Sharia court. Of course, he ran away. He refused to face the Sharia court. Federal High Court, he jumped bail. So this is the genesis of the thing. In some cases, you see documents that he parades. So those documents, the people signed those documents are people who had even left service. So it is not difficult to discover that those documents are fake and they are not real.
Meanwhile, lawyer to the Katsina State government insists that Mahdi Shehu has a case to answer over false accusations.
An irony. A businessman who is successful is being called a terrorist in a society, in a state that is being run by rogues who are rude and crude. They have no context, they have no context, they have no conscience. What they have is satanic verses in their chest, satanic verses in their hearts, satanic verses in their brain. All they understand is killing.
Sometimes in 2001, that was Dr. Mahdi Shehu. And the day after we did that particular report, Mahdi Shehu went to a TV station to talk about the late Bagada Kato. And I know from history, you guys had a working relationship together in the same organization, and Dr. Shehu is trying to sell another thing to the public entirely.
The question to ask is, who is Mahdi Shehu? Who really is Mahdi Shehu? Mahdi Shehu has been going from one TV station to another, sometimes purporting to even speak for the North. The average Northerner will be scandalized when Mahdi Shehu sits in a studio and parading himself like one of the spokespersons for the North. A practiced liar parading himself as someone who speaks for the North. Someone without a grain of integrity. parading himself as speaking for the North. Everything oozing out of Mahdi Shehu's mouth is falsehood. I've listened to him a number of times. I've never taken anything of value out of what Mahdi Shehu says. It's just lies upon lies. When somebody as old as this fellow lies in the manner that he lies, then it calls for concern. Mahdi Shehu will go back to what he did in Katsina. Mahdi Shehu did a petition against the Katsina state government. In that petition, he actually came up with a table saying this amount moved on this day, this one moved on that day. A table full of lies. And they had no choice but to say, how do you defame people in this manner? They then decided that they were going to take him to court, the Federal High Court as well as the Sharia Court. It was Dr. Mustafa Inua that took him to the Sharia Court. He's the principal witness. He's been sending people now to beg Mustafa Inua to agree for the case to be discontinued. And Mustafa Inua says, no, I will not discontinue this matter. Now, going into specifics, he said that the Katsina state government spent some billions in 2018 on COVID-19, whereas COVID-19 actually began. On that table that I submitted to the EFCC, COVID-19 actually began in 2020. In fact, Nigeria went into a lockdown in March 2020. But this talented liar is telling us that in 2018, Katsina state government spent billions of money on COVID. He also claimed that they spent 49 million naira to purchase phones. The government purchased Nokia 3310 for the ESCO members. He claimed that they purchased it for the Security Council members in the state, but they were actually members of the ESCO, the commissioners, the SAs, and the rest of them. You know, with the 3310, chances are that you can't bug their lines. The government spent 2.1 million on those phones. He claimed that they spent 49 million naira. Mahdi Shehu, in the nonsensical table that he drew up, also claimed that Katsina state government spent about 74 billion on security. He claimed that the money was constantly being moved from what he called the security escrow account of the state. And he claimed that the money was domiciled in two banks, UBA and Fidelity Bank. The state government does not have a security account in UBA and Fidelity Bank. The account is actually with First Bank. And in 7 years, Katsina state government has spent only 7 billion on security. That includes allowances to security operatives and all that, which all states do. 7 billion. Mahdi Shehu came up with 74 billion. Look at the difference. So if we even go to, he has a background. A fellow who has made this kind of, I won't say made a name for himself. It's not, even with all this, he's still not famous in our country, still largely insignificant. But a person who is already ill-reputed, that's the word that I'll go for, ill-reputed for lying through his teeth. You need to read the response of Mahmoud Jega to his claim about Bagauda Kalto. You need to read what Owela Kemfa wrote they effectively debunked his lies about Bagauda cattle. And for someone who does not have an atom of integrity, it is not difficult to know that he just went. He claimed that when Bagauda Bagauda was the person bombed, and that he went to Lawa Jafar Issa, the former military administrator of Kaduna State, to report. He said it was in Lawa's presence that he told the then president, the then head of state, Abacha. He also claimed that he told the then minister of agriculture, Adamuchi Roma. The only person alive amongst those persons is Lawa Jafaru Issa. And Lawa Jafaru Issa has come out to say he does not remember this person discussing that matter with him. So what stands to gain by just going around lying is what I fail to understand. You have not cleared yourself about what happened. Your matter with Katsina, you've not even cleared yourself. You are running from pillar to post, begging that the case should be withdrawn. Now you are still going to TV stations to lie about things that you don't know.
Larry, what do we know about the mysterious death of Bagauda? Because if this person is trying to rewrite history now, as at that time, you were part of the whole, and as a journalist, practicing journalist, what was the last thing you heard about Bagauda?
Well, when I, read this man's interview and all that he said, the first question that came to my mind was, where is this man coming from? Where has he been, all along? Because we're talking of an incident that occurred, in 1996. And of course, I agree with my, brother and colleague there, Jide, that in a normal society, you don't just give unnecessary, space for a person like this to just, throw lies around. And watching the repeat of that documentary that you did on him, I'm just wondering whether he actually does not need some form of, psychiatric, test.
Is it fit enough to,
whether,
to make this allegation?
But you also know that. But you also know that, we the Yorubas also have a proverb, or the Yoruba have a proverb that says that the water skater does not just dance on the surface of the water. This instead that dances on the surface of the water, go around at this. We call it lami lami. And the elders say that there is something beneath the dead that is drumming for it. And that is why we have to take this seriously, because otherwise we could just say this is just, this is a comedian. We should probably go and look for some comic streets to ignore, but we can't ignore him. I have a feeling that he's probably speaking, for some people who had been alleged to be involved in this, and then they are trying to cause confusion. In 1996, when this incident happened, I was the chairman of the Lagos State Council of the Nigerian Union of Journalists. And it was one of the cases that we took up to the level of the international community, up to the level of the Committee to Protect Journalists, up to the level of the International Federation of Journalists, demanding that the mystery must be unraveled as far as his death was concerned. Not only him, before then we had Delegiwa, and then we had also had other journalists. It was something that jolted not just the Nigerian media community, but the international community. Like I said, Committee to Protect Journalists, all of them. Yes. I mean, by the time of the military administration of the press center was built, a press center was named after him. All these international bodies wrote petitions, demanded Amnesty International that, what is disappearance and then later on his alleged killing should be investigated. Several years later, decades later, somebody has just come up to say he was a witness to that. I feel that he ought to have been arrested, by now. As a witness, for the state, because one of the demands we are saying is that let us go back to investigate this killing. That was the recommendation of the Oputa panel. He had probably forgotten that this matter came up even at the Oputa panel much later when they were trying to look at human rights violations under the military. And one police officer, one Bill, had actually alleged that it was some personnel in the management of the news magazine and Tempo, and in fact, the lawyer, Mr. Femi Falano, that were responsible for the death of Bagauda, And to that extent, Femi Falana had to go to the Oputa panel sitting in Kano, where he examined the bill. And according to Femi Falana's account, even the DSS contradicted the evidence that Mahdi gave at that particular city. So you just come around and cause confusion, because my fear really is that if we don't really follow up on this matter and say that government must reopen this case, see whatever process you want to decide, it could be a judicial commission of inquiry, any form of legal something to unravel, so that he can come there, as a witness. Because now what we're saying is that this matter should now be reopened, because somebody has come to say, I knew about it all. But we also know that previous stories, previous narratives do not match what he has said. So let us have a reopening of this, because that could also help us with other unresolved murders of Nigerian journalists. So of course the man is a liar, but like I said, we can't just sweep it under the carpet and say, oh, this, because he has said this, it has gone out there. I know that Bagada's wife has also issued a statement. Like I said, constantly then we were making demands. Everybody was involved because of the way he died. And my worry about this too really is that, and I hope that these antics of his that you have shown the whole world would help to clear doubts, because I've also been at some discussions where even our own professional colleagues, journalists, editors were thinking, oh, you see, what happened, and so that is the kind of danger of what he's doing, because the way he said it, and with the general belief by some that, oh, journalists are corrupt, so people just feel, oh, maybe it was because of the money, and it doesn't add up. In the course of our work, let us even assume that for whatever reason, Bagada had encounters maybe with the public affairs from US or whatever. In the course of our work, we relate with public affairs section of some of these foreign embassies. When I was the chairman of NUJ, we had so many programs with them.
We go to USIS.
You go to USIS
every Tuesday.
Sometimes they recommend. So it cannot just make. So on that basis, you can't just say, oh, just because he was there. But to now say that he planted a bomb that killed him, when they also said that his body was burned beyond recognition.
Yes.
You remember now?
That's
you remember?
The police commissioner.
That was okay that time.
Let me quickly pick this call from Mahdi.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us.
Hello? Ayo.
Hello?
Hello? My name is Michael. I'm calling.
Okay, go ahead, please. Michael, go ahead. Is Michael there? Okay, Julie, please.
The police commissioner at the time, Umar Suleiman, said the face was burnt beyond recognition, and that the smoke from the scene actually covered his face. His belly was ripped open, the belly of the bomber. The picture that they even claimed that they brought from the scene, when we, as staff of the news magazine, when we analyzed the picture, back then we said this was not Bagada, because the lips of that person, of the person in that picture, was much thicker than Bagada's lips. It's just like for someone to bring a picture that appears to show that my lips were a lot thicker than it is now. Of course, people will know that this is not me. So we had already debunked that back then, for those of us who worked with him. And Bagada, for no reason,
you know him
very well. We did many stories together. He's not the sort of person who go and plant a bomb. You see, the idiocy even in Mahdi Shehu's story has already been exposed by Mahmoud Jega in his write-up. That look, you claim that Hanks was a CIA agent. A CIA agent will go to a press conference or something, or a conference or a symposium, and simply hand over a parcel bomb to somebody that he has never met before. He doesn't know. If America and Israel are the best in the world in terms of intelligence, in fact, America is #1 in the world, there is no way that the FBI or the CIA will have an individual who will be so dumb as to carry a parcel bomb and take it to someone that he had never spoken to, that he did not know, and say, go and plant this inside that place because we want to embarrass Abacha. I mean, these are. It doesn't add up. He also claimed that he met Hanks on December 21, 1995, but in reality, the bomb happened on January 18, 1996. So he claimed that he met him just before the bomb went off. But look at the date that he's claiming in that interview, December 21. The bomb blast happened in December 21, the bomb blast happened in January 18, 1996, 28 days after he claimed to have met Hanks. There are so many things that this fellow has said that, look, and given his record, he is not someone that you can believe because he is full of lies. Part of what they are trying for is forgery. A man who can sit down and draw up a table and put dates to the point that, oh, on the 13th of August 2018, they withdrew 780,150,000 for COVID.
Maybe we should say
in 2018, when in after COVID had not happened, not even in China.
I think it's a creative liar. And because it's my worry and why I feel that we really need to be on top of this matter, and I must commend you, TVC, for coming up with this, is that you really never know what anybody is up to. Because we don't want a situation where something will happen to you. And people will just say, well, that was how they said it was the government that killed Baghdad, whereas it was money that went to collect, from someone. It's really, exactly. So we have to be very, very, careful. Otherwise, this could really make it difficult for us. Because if anything happens to any journalist, they will say, have you forgotten the other one? Maybe they have gone to. It's so malicious, the allegations that is raising against somebody who is there. And it's been clever by half because, like Jide said, he knows that many of the witnesses he's mentioning are no longer around. But, fortunately, we still have some of the elements who were involved, they are still around. And even if they are not around, it's so good that this is happening. And there's no reason why, this case cannot be reopened because it's now a matter of public interest. The wife, has spoken. The colleagues have spoken. Those of us, who are in the leadership of the NUJ then, we've spoken. And it will be good for us to revisit, these, to know what exactly.
Okay, Mojid Jami is still with us. Mojid, what do you make of this allegation by Mahdi Shehu?
Yes. Yeah, I read the account by Mahmoud Jega, a non-journalist, and that of Waila Kemfa, as well as the statement by the management of the news magazine. And also I've read several reports after this Mahdi Shehu character, gave that interview on Arise Television. And at times I want to even call to question our colleagues, the kind of characters they bring for interviews, and we need to critically analyze what they tell us and query them further. Because, like Mr. Alain Arugunrade said, if we just dismiss this and say this guy is not a serious character, something else will happen tomorrow, and they'll start saying that, and those journalists, they have gone there to collect money. Well, it's good what happened to him. Now, recall that on 7th of April 1998, when the wife of the late Kalto was arrested in Gombe, brought her to Lagos. It was April 7, 1998. That's 2 years after the event. He was arrested in Gombe after they got address from the managing director of the news then, now Senator Babafemi Ojudu. They brought her to Lagos, tortured her, and they wanted her to pin down the management of the news as the murderers of her husband. They were luring her with, all sorts of things. They promised her money for her to say that the management of the news used her husband for money ritual. That was in 1998. So how come this Mahdi Shehu character is coming in 2022, 27 or 28 years after this incident, to come and shape this kind of narrative is what I don't understand. Well, I think the point we need to drive home to viewers and to Nigerians is the fact that Mahdi Shehu, who claims to be an opinion shaper, an activist, somebody who has the conscience of the people, who is an anti-corruption crusader, owns Dialogue Pharmacy in Kaduna, where he got most of those things he used to feign that illness, which I pray that God will not allow those illness to be real with him. Because I don't know to what extent a man can go to want to deceive people, or to want to name, to want to say that a government is corrupt, and you now, imagine the way he was, how long it took them to bring him to court, the way he was saying that he was in pain and stuff like that. For the same man, not knowing that the camera had been planted in his room, for the same man to stand up and be leading prayers. For those of us who pray, we know the effort it takes you to do sujood, as in bending down and going. So if you have backache, you cannot do it. So we should let all Nigerians know that this guy is a shameless liar, and that is a character that can never be taken serious. And I think we should advise governments to call him to question so that he can defend all these things he's saying. We can't just allow this to go. I think this case should be reopened and call Mahdi Shehu to come and tell us, all these dates that are conflicting, that he's giving. Because, see, he is heading somewhere and is preparing a grant. I suspect that he's trying to link Bagauda Kalto to some leaders in Nadeko as we are getting close to 2023. It's not just, we shouldn't just treat this as a mere coincidence that this is happening at this time. Why wait till now? People contested elections in 2011, in 2015, in 2019. How come it is, and he was alive, he was in Nigeria then, his anti-corruption crusade didn't deem it fit to him then to bring it to limelight? How come it is in 2023 that he suddenly woke up to bring this to limelight?
I have Michael from Benue State. Michael, thank you for joining us. Hello, Michael. Okay, so Jide, moving forward now, because according to what Larry said earlier, not to destroy the good memory of this journalist, because it might just something that this man is trying to rewrite history. What do you want to be done now?
No, it's about my own goal is to let Nigerians know that they are dealing with a compulsive liar. You know, a compulsive liar wakes up, the first thing on his mind is to lie. That's the way I see this fellow. He has no honor. A man who, it took them about 1 hour to take him from the bus that brought him to court into the courtroom. And he knew all along that he was lying. He's a dramatist. He should be hanging out with Ali Nuhu and other people in Kannywood. He will make a very good actor.
Should be taken serious.
Instead of deceiving himself that he's an anti-corruption crusader, when even honesty, trustworthiness you do not have, how can you battle corruption? You are already, you have a big moral baggage. So how can a person who has a big moral baggage actually function as an anti-corruption crusader. Who will believe you? If you can sit down and forge documents saying government moves also amount of money, government bought 12 phones at 49 million when it was just 2.1 million that they sent, and you even had the guts to do a table, in some cases putting dates, things that you knew in your heart did not exist, saying they spent money during COVID, whereas your own COVID period was actually 2018. That's functioning more or less like an illiterate, because who does not know when COVID happened? But you see, when you think that you are clever, it takes something little to expose your lack of
stupidity.
Yes.
Stupidity.
It takes something little. Now look at it. It's not easy to look at, even when the day that he claimed that he met. He said he met Hanks on the day the bomb went off. It turned out that his date did not match the date that that bomb actually happened. That's 28 days difference. So this person is lying, but you know some people, when they are watching TV, Nigerians don't ask the right questions. And the memory of our people is short, because some people showed on social media, this same video was posted and people were asking whether it was the Accountant General of the Federation.
Because there are many in that category.
Yes, they felt it. They claimed that they brought him to court and he appeared in this manner. But it's not the Accountant General, for God's sake. It's Mahdi Shehu. It's Mahdi Shehu that is showing the people at Kannywood that is better than them at acting. We asked for investigation. See, Bagadaka, to let me tell you, somebody who worked closely with him, he would be giving me points I will be writing. He doesn't like writing long stuff like cover stories and all that. But whenever we are together, we say, Jide, it's you who write this. But in terms of gist, he's probably the best journalist that I've ever encountered. In terms of knowledge of what's going on, and he will give you those gists and you will discover that they are true. And they were looking for us. Some of us are lucky to be alive.
Information.
Yes, they were lucky. Some of us are lucky to be alive. Bagauda, when he was transferred, he said, they told me to leave Kaduna and go to Abuja. They will kill me in this Abuja.
Wow.
The day he told me this was the day we came to Lagos. And we met the Obasawa GM, and he said, Jide, you are still here. Are you not aware that they came to our office at Tajumala House? They wanted to arrest you for the cover story that you did on the coup. You better leave this place. I said, okay, before we leave, at least you will give me money. Bagada was beside me. So he said, I've been transferred. They will kill me where they are taking me to. I said, even in Kaduna, you are not safe.
As if he's foresaw it.
Yes, if just felt, where do I go now? But invariably, they got him and killed him in mysterious circumstances. It is the story of his death that a discredited actor is trying to rewrite now. Because this guy has a better talent than all the rubbish that is writing all over the place. He should go and meet Ali Nuhu and others. They would then incorporate him into their Actors Guild. And he can give us acting the way, just the way that we've seen him sitting down by himself. Somebody said, my neck has been broken, my back has been broken. He was calling international community, calling everybody. But see him leading prayers.
With the bad spinal cord?
If your back has been broken, can you lead like congregational prayers?
It's not possible. Larry, journalists that time. Okay, let me quickly pick this call. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Go ahead, please.
This is Ekene calling from Newi. Hello?
We can hear you, Ekene.
Okay, Baba, you are welcome. You are welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody in the studio. Happy Sunday to you all.
Thank you.
You see what is happening in this country. These are some of the things why Nigeria cannot move forward. What do we need again to nail this man? What do we need? Do we still need to investigate? Do we still need to investigate him when everything is already clear? These are the corruption that we are talking about in this country called Nigeria. How can you say that you are fighting corruption and you are the head of the corruption, playing all this game to deceive the whole world, to deceive the whole country, and you want people to believe you when you speak? These are the things. We need to, the Nigerian government need to look into this matter very well. And another,
I think the DSS have to go and get this guy to get more facts. Because even the government of that time, it took them 2 years. They were trying to find a way to explain what happened. It was 2 years after that they organized a press conference to say, okay, this is how this fellow died, this is the person. I'm referring to the press conference that Zachary Biu, who was head of the anti-terrorism squad at that time, held. So if it took them 2 years, now if it took them 2 years to come up with their nonsensical story that Brigadier Kalto was the one who planted the bomb, and someone will say that the same day that the bombing happened, he has spoken to people in government. So if he has spoken to them, that means they knew who the killer was on the day that it happened. Why would they then have to wait until 2 years after to say, okay, these were the circumstances in which that person died inside Doba? We have already explained. Anybody who knew Bagauda, once you looked at that picture that Zachary Biu presented, we easily dismiss it that this is not Bagauda Kalto.
Okay, we'll quickly take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. That wraps it with the first half of Journalist Hangout on Sunday. We'll be right back and talk more after this time out. Please don't go away.
It's always a great morning on the TVC Breakfast Show.
Thanks for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
With the array of stories that matter and what's behind them.
As you say, the first blow indicates the direction of government.
Tell us what really is going on between your union and the federal government.
Once it's generated,
if you don't use it, it's waste.
We are not even sure whether we have a strategy for security.
Are you saying that there was nothing wrong in that?
Was he the one driving the taxi?
Answer the question.
Reveal your morning with all you need to know.
Like
yes. Just mundane lyrics.
Yes.
How does that fit into your scheme of events or duties right now?
No chief of staff, no general has the right to call a governor to order. The governor has been elected by his people.
Start your day right, because this is the breakfast show that adds to your breakfast. TVC Breakfast, weekdays at 7 a.m.
Every week, Green Angle, in partnership with Wild Aid, will bring you a documentary series on environmental issues affecting Nigeria's amazing biodiversity, from climate change, air pollution, and wildlife conservation. We will be traveling across Nigeria to give you on-the-ground report of the issues affecting our environment. It airs every Saturday at 4:30 p.m. only on TVC News.
Every 1 hour, 86 migrants enter Lagos State. It is a beehive of activities. Every second counts in this city that never goes to sleep. There is always something to talk about. We go the extra mile to tell the story of Africa's 5th largest economy. We track happenings on land, on waterways, and in the air. We go against all odds to ensure that you are heard.
25% of the entire spread of Lagos is covered with water.
I'm Adedoja Salamadeni. I live in Lagos.
Welcome back. This is Journalist Hangout on Sunday. Larry, when you look at journalists at that time, journalists were like endangered species, and even till the advent of democracy, I still remember some weeks I still had to call you when I was told that Larry Arugundade had been arrested at the international airport, and I started making calls just to discover that it was Larry Arogundade's name that has been on the profile of these guys since the time of the military struggle. Tell us about that experience, journalists, those days.
Well, it's, I think, you know, it was a military era. And I also think it dates back to when we were in the universities as student union leaders. And apparently it shows that there's, so when, you know, in government, sometimes they would, what the previous administration had done, they will abandon it. But I think that when it comes to watch lists or, you know, following journalists, human rights activists, trade unionists, and so on, there's continuity in government. Because when I was first arrested, they were called NSO then, Nigerian Security Organization.
NSO then.
So you wonder, so it means the record didn't go with NSO. Then, you know, SSS and then DSS, you know, inherited it. And anytime you were traveling, and that, not only me, many activists of that period, I don't know if GD has also had similar experience. Wow. They will stop you at the airport, they will ask you questions, they want to know where you are going and so on. Then they will, sometimes they will delay you until you're almost missing your flight. But when it got to the point where I was now asked to follow them to the DSS office, years after, and I felt, well, it was time to cry out again. And I think the response from Nigerians, from the media, really embarrassed them. It was when the delegation of the, because what they said then was that, oh, it was a mistaken identity, that this didn't happen, but they didn't explain. But when the delegation of the International Press Institute, Nigeria, IPI, Nigeria, led by Muskili Mojid, is the Nigerian president, they've been having engagement with, you know, the security agents who ask questions, what exactly is your problem with the media? Then my issue came up. That was when they said, oh, he had been on watch list for about 38 years. You know, for this kind of, so, and then they promised him then that, okay, the name will be removed, you know, from the watch list. But it's just not for me. I think it's for all of us, for all journalists, for all activists. And I feel we have a duty to demand that the fact that, you know, you are an activist, you are pro-democracy activist, you are fighting for a better society based on your own conviction, based on your own ideology, should not warrant you being put on watch list by government and constant harassment at the point of, you know, entry and exit. Well, some people who work with security agents have said it happens everywhere, that even in other countries.
Terminating the journalist's life.
But the truth of the matter is that if we look at what is happening here, we still remain endangered as far as this profession is concerned. And my worry is that we are not only facing threats, the usual threats, so to say, the problems with security agents, the police, and so on, but even from, you know, those we call, you know, hoodlums. Look at what happened to this station, you know, during the NSAS, you know, movement. To the best of my knowledge, it was the first time that such a thing was happening. It's not as if we've not had riots in Nigeria. We had anti-SAP riots in 1989. I was just about 2 years old in the profession then, working for the Republic newspapers. It was a very violent protest. People, you know, pulled things, they blocked road and whatever. And even though I wasn't a known journalist, so to say then, I was just an ordinary features writer, I could still move around Lagos in my B2 car. The moment you tell the, you know, the mob that, oh, I'm a journalist, I work for Republic, they even create way for you. But now we had NSAS and they came and attacked a whole, you know, so, and we're still living with all kinds of, you know, problems in our society. So it calls for deep, you know, introspection, deep reflection, and further discussion and engagement about what is really happening to us. Why do we still have many journalists still be detained? The other time, a journalist working for Vanguard in Abuja, you know, died in mysterious circumstances, and the whole story. So that's why I was saying that. I agree with him. Yes, Mahdi qualifies for, is a comedian and so on, but
it could
also have, you know, its reasons. I mean, you know, a man who, you know, who runs a tasketer in the wood, you know, may not be a lunatic if he's not being pursued. You know, if he's not after something, maybe he's also being pursued. So there must be something, and I feel that whether in terms of what we experienced in the past and what we are facing now, the starting point now is that there's a reason to reopen this case. I don't know what the legal procedure will be. I mean, we are calling on government to reopen. Perhaps some of the institutions in could also do a formal petition. That's the only way, exactly. Put it, and then, exactly. A real
and some of the
a trial that is open to the public, that people can watch live, maybe a judicial commission, so that the kind of lies that we have said
his life was just terminated
can be really exposed and documented.
Yes.
So that
I think that if the
posterity.
Oputa panel had legal backing,
honestly,
okay,
we will have found a solution to some of those problems. But
serious cases.
Some of the people invited stayed away because it didn't have legal backing.
Some went to court to go and even...
Like, in my view, if it had legal backing, anyone summoned by it would have to appear.
Yes, unless you were arrested.
Some of the people who may have played a part in the murder of Bagauda, some of them would probably have been arrested. Some revelations will have come out of the panel.
The one of
Bagauda was very, very chummy with security operatives. In fact, at that time, through him, if they were coming to seize copies of our magazine, we would know. And they were giving him a lot of gist, you know. So for gist, Bagauda could get to the point of telling you who wrote a particular speech of the president. He was that effective within the security cycle. And when he had problems with them over a story that I did, when he had problems with them, I knew that trouble had come. Because these were people who not only protected him as a friend, but scoops. Yeah, were also giving him scoops that made him a star within the company. So when your old friends
turn against you,
you know it's difficult to know where to run to. I know that was a problem. And there's no way that if his death is thoroughly investigated, that we would not discover that security operatives arrested him and tortured him to death. We will be able to find that people like Zachary Biu, for example, some of the people who work with them will probably be able to give information about, okay, what went on during that time. He came to the news and just arrested some of our men and took them into captivity, put them in detention. The harassment was just too much at that time during the Abacha era. And some of us
constant breed. It was so bad. I mean, when they were looking for Dapo Olorunyomi and they had managed to escape, they arrested the wife with, I think the son was about 3 months old then and whatever. It was, in fact, every day was like, all we were doing it has happened that, the news, the local chapter then.
There was a time I had to go and hide in Jos for 3 months. Just hiding. They had to do a new ID card for me that did not reflect my name, and I was hiding in Jos. You can't stay in Kano. They came to my office. They came to arrest me, but I was lucky. I was not in the office. It was my secretary that they met. In fact, on that day that they could have picked me up, because Laiwola Adeniji, after the proscription of the Guardian, came to work with me in Kano. Once Laiwola heard that they had come to the office earlier, though he was not the person that they wanted, it was me, he was not ready to take that risk. He just left Kano, left for Lagos, and he never returned to his job.
Ended up in jail.
Yes,
for something.
For a story that I wrote. For a story that I wrote.
Oh, you wrote that story?
Yeah, I anchored the story. He was the editor. So once they got to our office in Tajumala House, and I was not there, they went to our second office. That one was that's where you have Sweet Sensation in Ogba now. That was where they picked up
26
that was where they picked up Kunle Ajibade.
And it was not only journalists that were arrested, even administrative staff.
Even Liberians.
Remember,
they would just lock people up.
Because that's why I'm saying that all these things that this man is saying, this was something that really attracted international, attention. because the way they were picking them, and of course,
some of our people fled abroad.
At a stage, they had to then decide let's practice underground guerrilla journalism. Because it was so difficult to. Bayo Ononuga, on one occasion, they came, they wanted to pick it. I think he just quickly sat where maybe the gate man or so would normally sit, and then they say, we are looking for.
No, even there is a press that we use here in Lagos. Then they came, they wanted to, they were raiding that press. As soon as they got inside, Baba Judo grabbed an apron of a printer and put on that apron. So you will not know that.
You think it's a printer?
Yes,
all right.
It was a printer.
All right, moving on. Nigeria is facing an unprecedented level of crude oil theft in the country's history. Yet, solution appears to be nowhere in sight. President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawa, has warned that unless prompt action is taken, crude oil thefts may stagnate the economy and drive it into coma. In a speech in Abuja, the number 3 citizen urged the authorities to curtail these thefts. Let me start, Mojid. Talking about this crude oil theft, it's just like they will tell you that we have people in government stealing from government. That is like an organized cartel. It's an organized crime against the states. That is not an average man on the streets. Some people will point accusing fingers at the military, oil workers, and politicians.
No, you have just hit the nail on the head, Ayo. If you are talking of thefts of 1,000, probably 10,000 liters, or rather barrels of crude oil per day, then you say it's by some petty thieves. But in a situation where we are talking of 270,000 barrels per day average in January, that's, if you put a value to that.
Barrels.
Yes, because I mean the MD of NNPC, Mele Kyari, gave these figures, which was corroborated by 90. In January 2022, crude oil loss per day averaged 270,000 barrels per day. If you put a value to that, that's $713 million. In February, it was 328,000 barrels. It kept increasing. March, 378,000 barrels, not for the month, per day average. April, 413. As of July, Nigeria was losing 616,000 barrels per day. So if you look at this average between January and July, it gives you a value of about 10 billion US dollars. So you can see that it is a very, very serious problem. And why should Nigeria take this serious? We should take this serious because I recall the Naval Command, the Special Task Force against crude oil theft, gave a briefing where they arrested a vessel, a 400,000 barrel capacity vessel, attempting to steal crude oil. It came into the bay, was trying to load, but when surveillance ships moved closer, it turned and moved away. And it said within 20 minutes, there's no way they could have done that. So it shows that this thing is organized. And you can see the loss per month. You could see the loss per month and per day. And for a 6-month period, for the first half of this year, Nigeria has lost $10 billion worth of crude oil to all these thieves. So it is a serious, but I hope that the contract that has been given to government Tom Polo now would probably reduce that, because when some people were shouting that 4 billion naira per month was too much for Tom Polo, but if you look at a loss of $713 million in January, and $2 billion loss in July. You know that the 4 billion naira that is being paid to Tom Polo, which of course, I mean, since that contract was signed, there has been a drastic reduction in the amount of crude oil that is being stolen. So, but it is a very sad development that if Nigeria continues like that, I mean, the economy will be brought to its knees, especially taking into consideration that crude oil sales accounts for about 90% of our income in US dollars.
I think it amounts to like wickedness on the part of anybody. That if you could steal that quantum of crude oil, and these people are in government, and this administration simply does not have the willpower to identify the culprits and at least expose them or root them out of the system, and Nigeria is bleeding on a daily basis.
It's difficult to explain why theft of this level is happening. Crude oil theft has always been there, but never in our history, can I recall that people will steal on the average 400,000 barrels a day. By the latest figures that were released, we are now, our production output has come down to 900,000 per day. Our quota, our OPEC quota is 2,200,000. That's why today we are now number 3. We used to be Africa's biggest oil producer. We are now number 3, behind Angola and Libya, a war-torn country. Libya is a failed state already. So we are behind even Libya. That's to tell you the damage that this organized stealing is doing to our country. This is the season when every oil producer is making money, because the senseless war that Putin started in Ukraine has allowed countries from the Middle East and Central Asia to make so much money. The Saudi oil giant has already made in the last quarter 48 billion US dollars. Revenue, 48 billion US dollars. Instead, Nigeria is recording losses. They gave us quota. We cannot meet the quota that OPEC gave us. People like Tam David West, who fought for Nigeria's quota to be increased to 2.2, they will be turning in their graves now, because it now looks like their efforts have come to nothing. If, in spite of that quota, we can't even meet the quota. Everybody is making money from crude oil now. The little money that we are making is even going to subsidy payments. Now, we've been told that for this year, we are going to make 40% less from oil than we made the previous year. What we made the previous year is still not enough, but we are being told now that due to this rampant stealing of our crude, that we are going to make 40% less. Anybody who hears this should be worried, because at this point, we rely so much on revenue from oil to even show up our foreign exchange earnings. But you can see the Naira. Last night, the Naira exchanged for 710 to a dollar, because you are not making enough money from crude oil. Angola, go and check the currency of Angola now. Go and see how it is doing against the dollar. It's doing very well, perhaps unprecedented against the dollar, because Angola is making a lot of money from oil now. They've overtaken us. They are number 1 in Africa now. They are earning so much, just like every other country. Look at diesel. If Nigeria were to be a country with good leaders, we should have refineries. We should have refineries dedicated to export of refined crude oil, like diesel, jet A1, like kerosene.
Other byproducts.
Yes, that's what the Saudis do. Some of their refineries are dedicated to refining for export.
Refinery to
what has, after more than 50 years
PMS
as an oil as a big oil producer, what is wrong in having not just refineries dedicated to taking care of our domestic needs,
PMS,
but even exporting for the international community, those who want to buy. That way you make more money. So the Saudis see themselves as the market leaders. They are the leaders, and they're making a lot of money.
Well, my interpretation is that it is an organized crime, and you talked about lack of will on the part of government. What could be responsible for that lack of will, if possibly you don't have a complicity? But we're also dealing with a problem that is increasing in geometrical proportion. In January or by January, February, the daily loss from this crude oil theft was about 30 million US dollars. By March, it had gone to 40 million US dollars. And of course, it's snowballing. So nothing says that by the end of this month or by next month,
losing revenue,
we will not be losing more revenue. And you know what came to my mind as Jamu, and they were really those figures earlier, was that, look, if we plug these loopholes, then you have enough money to take care of ASU's demands.
Yes.
So
and it won't stop the loans.
Exactly. So a government that is concerned about social services, about not jeopardizing the future of the country, we do something. But then we also have to look at one issue, which has to do with this whole issue of protecting the pipeline, because we are paying individuals so much to protect pipelines. Yet you still have, this, to the extent that even the quota we're giving, when, like I said, the reason why we're not making as much money is that we're not even able to meet the quota.
Yes.
Before it went to 2 million, it was about 1.78 million. When it was 1.78 million, Nigeria could only produce 1.3 million, and it has been there, for years, really. So it will really, take a whole shape, and I really doubt whether anything can really happen. I would say that it's more like you will need because when you give contract to individuals to protect the pipelines, something that should go to the security agencies. Of course, we are not saying the security agencies are perfect, but that could if that lead to envy, and in fact, sabotage. So there has to be a thorough re-examination of the whole. I don't like to use their word, so bastardized, this security architecture and the rest of them, but it has to be reorganized. We have gotten to a stage where National Assembly has to organize special public hearings on this matter, because we are not making any headway. Either you are giving contract to individuals, instead of agonizing. Whether you are giving contract to individuals or you are doing government, nothing is really, really happening. But it's a problem that is endemic, because even before now, I was quite close to some people working with the Department of Petroleum Resources, and they will tell you that even in those days, you can't even say this is the exact amount of oil that is going out of Nigeria, because it's what those people say it is, that it is. You are not sure. And in any case, when they even leave our shores, some of them don't even get to the destination. It's a complete racket.
But they were not bleeding us like this.
The Minister for Petroleum Resources is the president of the country. So the buck stops on his table to do something about this. Otherwise, things will just continue to get worse, to the extent that even when you are supposed to take advantage, you are not taking it, and the economy, it's reeling all over. Prices of commodities, and it's simply because so that is one thing too. We should also not forget that the fact that the refineries are not working, it's also another thing. And I feel that it's part of the organized crime to just ensure that, because we have seen that actually governments can run refineries, and we're not even talking of, we're talking of the example of other countries. Yes. They manage it in such a way that I know that there was a time when in Iran, apart from the fact that the refineries were working, if you came and bought Iranian oil, you were even required to transport it in Iranian vessels. So beyond the money they make from the sales, they also make money on transportation. Because it's a huge chain, and I think it's just, a scandal. It shows complete, failure of government. And for what or better thing to say, I would say probably you really need a revolutionary shake-up in that, sector for something, to happen. But as Nigerians, we just have to demand that this, has, to stop. Otherwise, the country will continue to bleed, to death.
In fact, if care is not taken, the country will collapse. A lot of the obligations of government won't be able to meet because you are not earning enough. The first sign was the debt, the fact that debt servicing outstripped revenue in the last quarter. So how much longer can we go? Some of the revenue that should come in is already been, the NNPC has already converted it to subsidy.
But even the amount of threat itself is almost overtaking what is supposed to be Nigerians' foreign reserve. So it's as that bad, and we are really dealing with.
No, it's so bad, and I just hope that it doesn't get worse. Because if it gets worse, salaries of public workers will not be paid. we are already borrowing to pay salaries, calling it ways and means and all that. But a debt is a debt.
Exactly.
And the law is clear that that there is a level, there is a ceiling that the CBN should not go beyond in even loaning money to the federal government. But that ceiling has already been breached. And the fact that that ceiling has been breached suggests that we are dealing with a much bigger problem than we imagined. So if we can deal with the areas through which our country is being bled, if we can block those loopholes, we will earn more money. How can, look, between the Central Asian countries and the Middle East countries, they are projected to make $320 billion from crude oil sales this year alone.
Yeah, in fact,
320 billion.
You even said, you alluded to how the Russian war in Ukraine is contributing to this. What we should also say that even Russia, that is facing sanctions, that is having all this problem, is also making more money. Even from the way things are, because it's been forced. They're
benefiting from.
They're also benefiting from the.
Yeah, we are the only oil producer. The point I'm trying to make is that we are the only oil producer that is not benefiting.
Facing enormous sanctions.
Yes,
it's also making a lot of money because they still trade in the international market one way or the other. They still have some markets that buy their oil, and they are selling at the prevailing prices.
Yes, so we are the only ones that are not making money.
Even, and
there is a write-up that the Economist did recently, wondering why Nigeria, of 4 countries, is not benefiting from this this war in Ukraine. We are not benefiting. Others are making so much money. And that's why I said between the Middle East countries and Central Asian countries, $320 billion is what they are projected to make this year alone. But what's coming to Nigeria? Nothing. We are in deficit.
We are being punished.
Instead, we
can. Yes, because ordinary bread, they will tell you that flour, they will tell you wheat, everything.
Everything you want to buy.
The currency
card that you bought 10 years ago for 4 million is going for 12 million. I mean, prices have gone haywire.
The currency is not strong because we are not earning enough foreign exchange.
All right, and finally, ahead of the 2023 general election, the crisis rocking the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has gone from bad to worse. In the latest twists, the man at the center of the crisis and the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, accused the PDP national chairman, Yocha Ayu, and the party's presidential flag bearer, Atiku Abubakar, of insincerity and manipulation of the primary election in May. Governor Wike accused Ayu of masterminding his loss of the ticket by reaching out to other contestants to step down for Atiku. He insisted that Ayu must go. Majid, you saw Wike, Governor Wike, and in Port Harcourt during that live interview. He spoke for almost 2 hours or over 2 hours, and Very interesting. My submission was like, look, there seemed not to be an end to this crisis within the People's Democratic Party.
You know what? I spoke to. You know, Jide was one of the panelists. Himself, Benga Uleba, Shehu Kibale, and the lady from NTA. You know, after the interview, I called Jide. I said, Jide, come. Was that thing real? What was your impression? Or of course, I think you will tell us. Because I was like, from my own, as a student of psychology, from from those things Wiki said at the interview, even if IU resigns today, I think Atiku will not trust him. And I doubt if you can trust Atiku again. Now let's leave IU. All these things they are saying that IU cannot, and I expect that Atiku would prevail on IU to step down for the sake of the party, to increase the chances of the party. No, Okowa was in Lagos about 2 weeks ago when they came for the Southwest this thing, and Okowa admitted that the emergence of Peter Obi of the Labour Party will impact more negatively on the votes of PDP in the Southwest and the South and Southeast, more than the negative impact it would have on APC. And Wike corroborated that in that interview that there are 3 key states in Nigeria. If any president that would emerge, if any president fails to win 2 out of the 3 states, that's Lagos, Kano, and Rivers. Those are the 3 highest states in terms of how critical they are and in terms of votes. And besides, there is no way, as a Wike talking as a member of the PDP, that there's no way Atiku will win in Lagos, there's no way Atiku will win in Kano, and now Rivers, with the way they are fighting him, he doubts if he would ever win Rivers. He said that's 0/3. So I don't see how Atiku, with his experience in politics, will allow this matter to drag from May till now. We are just 4 days, less than 3 days to the commencement of campaigns. So how Atiku or PDP will campaign in the South without a Wike and expect to win the presidential election leaves much to be desired. All right. That interview exposed a lot, and it is serious for the PDP.
And you listened to Governor Wike throughout, and you might have even spoken to him behind, after the interview session and everything. And the Wike you saw, does he look as if he's a man that is ready to back down and embrace peace? Where he has gotten to?
I met him the night before the interview. After we got to Port Harcourt, he sent for us. And I asked him, I said, you have sent for us. Do you want to outline the no-go areas? And he said, no. TVC man, ask me any question that you feel that you can ask me. This time around, I want to talk. That's the best thing that anybody can say to me, because I didn't want to go to the interview where he will have told me, don't ask this, don't ask that. No, why should one do that kind of interview? And I felt that, well, what is important is let's push him to talk. Let's draw words out of his mouth. That is the job of a journalist who has to do an interview. And on the day, I observed that we were supposed to give him 10 minutes for his opening remarks. We ended up spending more than 30 minutes for opening remarks. We spoke with him for like 1 hour, 46 minutes, not up to 2 hours. in the final analysis because our Labour was insisting that it should not be up to 3 hours. Left for him, he was ready to go for 3 hours, but our Labour said no, we can't do 3 hours here. But I saw a Wike that is extremely stubborn. Someone that once he makes up his mind, I don't think anyone can convince him. I don't know anyone now in Nigeria. Maybe when Jonathan was president and he was a minister, I don't see anyone who can tell Wike, look, I'm your leader. Enough. I've not seen that person. And in all my interactions with him, because I interacted with him for almost 2 hours before even the interview, and after it, I have not seen anyone who has that grip on him, who has that influence. He sees himself as a leader. He sees himself as someone who has contributed so much to the party and who cannot be treated with levity. He thinks that, look, there are some things that we've said here before in this program, that how come PDP has so many southern governors, yet it wasn't their own party that came up with the idea of power shift to the south. A lot of them, including Wike, are still bitter that this happened. And that's why Wike kept referring to the fact that it's in the constitution of the PDP to zone party positions, but when they got to the presidential ticket, they refused to zone. That is one of the things that he holds against the party, that they should have zoned the thing to the south. Because it's in the constitution. So when we talk about the fact that the constitution says, if the chairman resigns, the next person, the person that will take over from the chairman is the deputy chairman, not. Wike is now saying, no. Did they look at the constitution when they decided not to zone? Did the constitution not say you must zone? It says shall, because it's the word shall that was used in the constitution, which is emphatic. So he is now saying the two of them must leave and that the NEC can take that decision. How does the NEC, headed by the chairman, Ayu, call a meeting? Ayu will not even call a meeting of NEC. It's just like Bukola Saraki, when it became clear to him that they wanted to impeach him in the Senate, he refused to convene the Senate. Yes. He just gave instruction to the clerk. No, don't call a meeting. Don't call a meeting. And he survived it. So the situation that they found themselves now, I don't think this matter will be resolved, though. One, Atiku thinks that, okay, even if Ayu gives way and the deputy national chairman also gives way, then it goes to the south. It goes to the deputy national chairman south. Arakwaja is Tarid. Yes, Arakwaja is Shehu Makinde's person. He made sure that Arakwaja wins. Shehu Makinde is Wike's person. He's probably the most visible governor behind Wike now. Because Otom, I think he was ill, so he's not been going with him everywhere. So Atiku will then say, power will go to Wike's person because Makinde's person is also Wike's person. So he would think that power will go to Arakwaja, who is Makinde's person. Therefore, it won't be comfortable to have such a person as chairman. This is the calculation that all of them are having. Wike knows what he wants. Atiku also knows what he wants. But I also think that people should not make promises that they cannot fulfill. This is what led us to this. If you met with them in London and you said to them that, look, Ayu must go, and you said, okay, when we get back to Nigeria, we will have meetings, and you refuse to call meeting since then so that Ayu can go, you've refused to honor your word. If Ayu, because on record that Ayu said he will step down if a northerner becomes the standard bearer of the party, presidential standard bearer of the party. Yes. So why are you refusing to honor his word? So if people fail to honor their word, it leads to this kind of problems.
This is all about interests, survival, life after 2023, and within the People's Democratic Party, when you look at the dynamics, perhaps Atiku felt that this was his best opportunity without Muhammadu Buhari being on the ballot to clinch that presidency since 1992. But lo and behold, Peter Obi left that party, and that's maybe that might cost him the whole southern part of the country, or the southeastern part of the country. Now, Nyesom Wike, unarguably the governor that controls the South-South, the biggest voting bloc in the South-South.
Yes, because the political journalists have, have spoken before me. Well, I think, as Yoruba people would say, that's what I'm saying. If, and you know my position, if we really have, a real, thought force shaking this country, they won't even be dreaming. There are many people there who should not be, dreaming of this thing. But talking about, and it's difficult to, because I don't do political, I'm not on the field, I don't have the privilege of interviewing them like, Jide, has really. But again, it will seem as if, obviously, Wike has a case, and he has been pushing this and pushing this. And there's also a way when you push things, people start feeling that the thing may become the proverb of the tortoise. Who said, "Oh, my in-laws stole and wanted everybody to, disgrace, and then waited and that kind of thing." The other point is also that now we're hearing the whole process was manipulated and all those kind of things. If Atiku had picked Wike as vice president,
would have got
going to be, hearing, all this thing about, whatever. So which means that within the camp of politicians, one just have to be very, very, careful. This war that looks like war now, you never know what will happen tomorrow, and those who interviewed Wike where he was threatening fire and brimstone would also be invited to come and witness them sharing the ice cream. Maybe my brother Jide, will be invited.
This one.
But it's so like he said. I feel that, but definitely 2023 will be quite complicated, and we have to be very, very circumspect in looking at perspectives of what may happen. Looking at the geography of politics today, like he said, Obi's votes may also encroach into some PDP territories. But we also have to recognize too that some of these states are traditionally PDP, and this is where the Wike thing becomes difficult, because it really at the same time you say, oh, the flag bearer of APC offered me something I did not take. So you are what exactly will be his position? Will he be in that position to be able to swing the entire population? Because in the political balance of Nigeria, what you need to win the presidential race, we should also not forget. So even those big three states, you need to win majority of the votes, and you need to win 25% of the votes in 24 states. That is what you need to win. And we need to go back to past elections to look at how that's the geography. What we can say for now is that Obi's entry, because it's bringing a new dimension that people did not see, much as people have said, oh, it's a social media phenomenon, or you might also be seeing some other things. But I'm really not so interested in discussing all these intrigues, because like I said, you never know what will happen tomorrow, and the dynamics of the whole thing will suddenly change. But there's no doubt that the party that is facing the bigger crisis now when you are speaking of internal crisis, as we look at 2023, it's obviously the PDP because of these, Wike, factor, and the difficulty, in managing them. It's also all about, interest, and so you are looking at a situation where possibly an article. So you had an article on Obasanjo, and Obasanjo had a very powerful. Atiku was a powerful vice president to Obasanjo, and it caused a problem. I have a feeling that he too, if he wants to become president, he doesn't want a very powerful, and that an attempt to run from that has created these,
I think one of the things
within the party.
The candidate reserves the right to pick whoever he wants as his deputy. I think Atiku made a mistake when he allowed them to do a short list for him. And then the committee then advised him that, look, in this order. And Wike clearly came first. All of the governors, even the way the primaries went, none of the current governors of the PDP can come close to Wike in terms of popularity across Nigeria. So you should have known that in such a situation, that committee would likely put forward someone like Wike once he appeared on the list. But once once it was presented to Atiku then decided not to choose the person who clearly, in the reckoning of the committee members, came first. That further angered him, because he didn't want to be VP from the beginning. But some stakeholders within the party were the ones who put his name on that list against his wish. In fact, he was saying that he regretted not stopping that from happening, that he listened to some of his own people who said, no, let's just do it. Now, the verdict was clearly Wike number one. Atiku then decided not to go for number one. So, given what had happened, he then felt this person doesn't like me and all that. So, he's pushing for the South to be better represented. I think he has a point there. Until the BOT chairman decided to step down, virtually every position of value was held by the North in the PDP. So, and he's saying, look, you have the BOT chairman decided to step down, but that's not enough. Yes, because it doesn't.
My take on all this, however, is that whether they have internal problems or not, we know, and we're hoping that the security situation will improve. We already know that we have elections in 2023. INEC has released the list of the candidates. We already know the presidential candidates. I think that maybe what should be our own greater preoccupation is putting the issues of public interest between the candidates that have emerged, and irrespective of how their internal rumblings will affect their chances. We have a lot on the table to engage these presidential candidates with. ASU has been on strike for years. What are they going to do about education? What are they going to do about healthcare? We've discussed the state of the economy, the crude oil theft. What exactly? What would they do differently to stop this thing that Jide says is already making Nigeria a collapsing state, or people even say it's already a failed state. We've discussed our own constituency too, the media, where we're having unresolved murders. I feel that our message to our colleagues should just be, let's go out with these issues and engage them. And if people don't know how to manage the internal crisis and it affects them at the polls, it cannot be.
Finally,
it cannot be our.
So how do you see this playing out at the end of the day, Mojid? Wike is saying, I'm not going to leave the People's Democratic Party.
I think the article comes to remember that it's not only Wike that is talking. He has Shehu Kinde, he has Ofoyo, he has Autumn of Benue, he has Ugwuanyi of Enugu, he has Okeze Ikpeazu of Abia, he has Donald Duke, Peter Odili, Governor Mimiko, former Governor Mimiko, former Governor Fauci, and Elder Body Judge with him. So, if you want to wish these people away just because of value, you are talking of about 10 million votes put together because of Yoshia Ayu. So I think the Atiku camp should have everything. And I posted something on Facebook that would you rather keep Ayu that can deliver less than 300,000 votes for you, or trade away a Wike and a Sim that has the capacity to give you between 6 and 7 million votes. And I think that's what the Atiku camp should think about as we approach the September 28th flag off of the campaigns.
On the part of Atiku, it's as if the die is cast. Atiku too is not ready to bulge. The way he's talking, that is only the party constitution, is only the neck of the party, is only the considered authority within the party that can remove Iyocha Ayu. That he doesn't want to do that, doesn't want to rock the boat in any way.
He said he cannot force Ayu. He said he cannot force Ayu to resign. When they, don't forget that even when they talk about the fact that they passed a vote of confidence, but a lot of those governors stayed away from that meeting where that vote of confidence was passed. So you look at the governors who are present, that's just a few of them. It's a bad one for Atiku. Wike would not leave the party. I said that a long time ago because he wants to install his candidate as governor. So he won't leave the party. But he said something. He said, have you not seen where the party won House of Assembly seats and didn't win governorship? Which means that you can actually have an election on the same day with people voting for different parties. We see Oloye Saraki used to do it in Old Kwara. He would tell them, this Saturday, so he would tell them and they would listen to him. So let's go. Unfortunately, even in Rivers, it's looking like a one-party state now.
Wow. I want to thank you, Moji Jabi. Thank you for your contribution. And thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Putting you on the hot seat and come and discuss
for 2 hours.
And the line is also a part-time politician. I remember he's this in the National Conscious Party. He contested as a governor.
Maybe people were there now and all these things will be maybe we'll be back one day.
Oh yes, definitely. And Vicky himself, thank you for your contribution. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for our regular episode of Journalistic Hangout by 5 p.m. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11:30 p.m. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Ozuba. We'll see you tomorrow, and God bless Nigeria.
Every major news story is with many perspectives and layered with different levels of impact.
Hello. What time did this happen? We will be right there.
At TVC News, we follow the big and major news, gathering the facts, witnessing the outcome.
I am here live at the aftermath of the approval of the new national minimum wage.
We are TV Station of the Year, not just for breaking news, but for being first,